Welcome to the RiverWatch refresher video that details how to identify caddisflies and stoneflies. So hopefully after this video you'll be refreshed on your knowledge of the best ways to identify these kinds of macroinvertebrates. For RiverWatch we use 37 different macroinvertebrates as stream quality indicators, and this presentation will be in the insect category and down in the caddisflies and stoneflies. So we'll do stoneflies first. Here's some stoneflies right here. We don't identify the different families of stoneflies in RiverWatch. We only go to say if it's a stonefly or not. So here are the best ways to identify stoneflies. Here's what they look like in a petri dish. So they're kind of a medium-sized macroinvertebrate. Here's what they look like under 10 times magnification. Again, these are different species, so they look a little bit different. A stonefly has 2 tails on the end of its abdomen, so you can see that up here too. And then 2 pairs of wing pads. So these are immature wings that will develop into mature adult wings when they metamorphose into adults. Another thing to notice about stoneflies is they have no gills on their abdomen. So those mayflies we looked at earlier had frilly, thin tissue on the side that worked as gills. Stoneflies do not. Their gills are usually tucked under their thorax or legs. And this is what an adult stonefly looks like down here. These are one of the more sensitive RiverWatch taxa. So if you have a lot of these at your site, it could indicate good water quality. Next we're getting into the caddisflies. For the most part these are also pretty sensitive of pollution, not all of them. But the best way to identify as a caddisfly is they look like a grub. They have 3 pairs of legs and then a hardened plate on the first segment of their thorax. That's how you know it's a caddisfly. And a lot of times they build these cases that live in. And then here's an adult up here. For RiverWatch we use the hydrocycad, saddle case, snail case, and other caddisfly categories. So starting with the hydrocycad caddisfly, this is one of the probably the most common caddisfly you'll find. They're also one of the most tolerant caddisflies. Most people consider them facultative. They can tolerate some pollution. Not a whole lot, but some. These are also called net spinning caddisflies. They build a web on the stream bottom and filter out food particles. Over here is what they look like in the petri dish. They kind of curl into this C shape that most of you have probably seen before. If we look at 10 times magnification, you can kind of get a better feel for their features. They have 3 plates on the thorax, so thorax segment 1, thorax segment 2, thorax segment 3. Each has a plate. If you're ever wondering, like, how do you know that it's a thorax segment and not an abdominal segment? Well, if it has a pair of legs coming out of it, right here. So a pair of legs, pair of legs, pair of legs. That's a thorax segment. So these all have 3 pairs of thorax segments. They also have gills on their ventral side, their belly, and they curl into this C shape a lot. They also have an pair of anal prolegs with claws coming off. So those fake legs, it's just a fleshy appendage with claws on the end to help anchor them in the flow. And then here's an adult down here. Next we have the snail case caddisfly. Pretty easy to know, pretty easy to identify if you actually know these exist. I think these were originally described as a species of snail, a mollusk, when they were first found. But these are insects, in fact. So this is what they look like in a petri dish, kind of round aggregates of little gravel and sand. This is what they look like under 10 times magnification. You can see the snail shell spiraling in on itself. So it looks kind of like a planorbid snail, or ram's horn snail. And you can see their head and legs protrude out of a single opening. This is kind of what they look like under the microscope. You can see the thorax here and then the head. Next we have the saddle case caddisfly. This one builds a case that looks kind of like a dome shape out of rock. or some people say it looks like the shape of a turtle shell. This is what they look like in the petri dish. And then this is under 10 times magnification. This is what their bottom looks like. It kind of looks like a flattened, it's flat on the bottom for sucking to the rock, and then rounded off on the top with the rocks. So, round shell. And this is what they look like if you found it outside of its shell. They have one plate on the first thorax segment, and then one plate on the last abdominal segment for protecting them when that part hangs out of their shell. And then this is, a lot of times when you find them in the field, they kind of look like this, a clump of rocks sucked to a rock and kind of a flat line right there. And these are the most sensitive RiverWatch taxa. So if you find a lot of these at your site, could indicate good water quality. Lastly, we have the other caddisfly category. So these caddisflies are sensitive to pollution, and we want to note their presence at our site. This is what they can look like in a petri dish, so different shapes, some made out of bark and sticks and gravel, leaves. Some of them are free living, or you find them without a case. So closer look. So this is an other caddisfly. You may be easy to confuse him with a hydropsychic caddisfly, the other one we just looked at without the shell, but he does not have 3 thoracic plates up here, or those stringy gills on his abdomen, or the prolegs back here. So this is what they look like. They can build their cases out of various things. The one thing they have all have in common is they have 3 pairs of legs and then a plate over their first thorax segment. Over here, some more other caddisflies zoomed in. There's that first plate on the thorax, no gills on the abdomen. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're looking for the other caddisfly category. And this is an interesting one right here. This is the Macrocaddisfly. They have a really swollen abdomen and then a thin thorax and a head. So now you can test your knowledge to see what you've retained. See if you can identify the stonefly, the hydropsychic caddisfly, the snail case caddisfly, the saddle case caddisfly, and the other caddisfly. You can go ahead and pause the video now and get out some paper, or just do it in your head, and then unpause it when you're ready to see the answers. Alright, now that you've put down your answers, we can compare them and see how you did. A is the saddle case caddisfly, the dome-shaped shell of rocks. B is the snail case caddisfly. He has a spiraling shell of rocks or gravel. C is the stonefly. So this is actually, he has the wing pads here and the no gills on the abdomen, and then 2 tails. D is the hydropsychic caddisfly. He has gills on his belly, 3 thoracic plates on his thorax. Then E is the other caddisfly. Doesn't have gills on his thorax. He only has 1 plate. He doesn't have gills on his belly, and he only has 1 thoracic plate. So 1 plate, 3 plates. So that's the end of the Caddisflies and Stoneflies refresher video. Thanks for watching, and I hope this is a help next time you're out in the field.